Summary, our current invention is by taking these two normal end magnets and adding two more end magnets or two S magnets at 90 degrees to it in a 6-coil 4-magnet geometry. Then we can make a self-starting 3-phase synchronous motor, which doesn't require a squirrel cage or anything. I just put a little power on to see how you can see how it works. You see how nicely it self-starts. I haven't touched it. I just put on 1 hertz of power and it self-starts quite nicely. So you don't need the squirrel cage. Just add 2 more magnets. That's our invention. It only works for the 6-4 geometry. The reason is there's a torque right here. These side magnets give an enormous clockwise torque, like from a linear motor. So these are like a synchronous motor and these are like a linear motor. And that's how the device works. Very cool, isn't it? The 4 magnets all add up over 6 horizontal coils. It spins naturally clockwise in these step fashion, step, step, step. This is at 2 hertz, 3 hertz, it's at 4 hertz, 5 hertz, 6 hertz, beautiful locking behavior, 7 hertz, 8 hertz, 9 hertz, 10 hertz, 11, 12. That's all I want to do for safety. Thus we have a self-starting synchronous motor caused by those extra magnets. Now if we take 2 of the magnets and make 2 of them north and 2 of them south, now I'm going to press the button and you see it starts immediately anti-clockwise rather than clockwise. So the direction of start can be determined either by the current or by the magnets. That's at 2 hertz. Three hertz and so on. You don't have to use cube magnets for this horizontal arrangement. We could also use the commonly used 50mm disc magnets. They all end pole up. And you can see at 1 hertz, these 4 disc magnets step quite nicely around the 6 horizontal wire coils. If we hold it here, we can see, look at the torque. That's just at 1 hertz. Clearly self-starting. That's at 2 hertz. Clearly self-starting clockwise. And look how strong the torque is. I interrupted it, it restarts. That's at 3 hertz. That's at 4 hertz. The rotor's not very stable. That's at 5 hertz. And you can just spin it up like that quite easily. Otherwise, we switch the polarity of the magnets from all ends to N, S, N, S going around, and we turn that on at 1 hertz. Now it goes anti-clockwise, self-starts. I haven't touched it. 2 hertz, 3 hertz. This may take some more development, but it's a very interesting finding. 4 hertz, 5 hertz. Interestingly, if we go with 6 coils and 8 magnets, it makes the rotor very heavy. It's probably just academic. have them alternate between N and S all the way around. It will again self-start. 8 N's don't work. But you can see 8 magnets alternating N and S work to self-start. It's at 1 hertz. It's at 2 hertz. 6.4 was better. This is 6.8 with 8 magnets. That's 3 hertz. So it works just as well as 6.4, but there are twice as many magnets. If you really wanted a lot of strength, more than 6.4, this might be a good way to do it. Look at that. The rotor, however, is getting quite heavy with all those magnets. I would like to do another very brief teaching video how this 3-phase motor works with 6 wire coils and just 2 of the 4 magnets. We're just at 2 hertz 3-phase power. And you can see with 2 magnets it's still going around quite nicely with them. And what happens is when one of those magnets comes to the top of a phase cycle, say phase 1, first it attracts and then it releases a little bit later. Another magnet 90 degrees away was right here. It doesn't do anything, but then as this magnet releases, the V and W coils, one becomes more north-like, one more south-like, and it gives you torque. And we can just see it visually very easily. So here we have one magnet sitting right on top of a coil, this other in between, and as that magnet over here releases, the other one torques forward. And we just need 2 magnets to see this, and it spins up quite easily. I don't want to fly off. It's shaking. 20 hertz. Stop. I don't know what that was, about 400 RPM. So basically then it self-starts again. So we've demonstrated the principle of this just using 2 magnets and a slightly unbalanced rotor. It's very easy. Attract, release, V goes one way, W goes the other. So that pins there, release, torque. And that's how it works. What we're going to do today is explain as simply, precisely as possible the advance we've made in the science of magnetic motors. We're not going to talk about 1-phase motors or DC or AC. We're talking about 3-phase motors, which is the most common type. The most common type of motor is called a squirrel cage or copper induction motor. Magnets rotate around a squirrel cage of copper bars, and the current induced by Lenz's law lets the rotor of the squirrel cage turn along with the rotating magnetic field. If it lags behind like a dog on a floppy leash, not entirely satisfactory. Much better to have a magnet motor where the magnets precisely align with wire coils. Now it's easy to do that. The magnet NS will align with the wire coil NS to sit over and attract to repel quite easily. But how do you make a magnet go sideways, what's called for torque? How do you make a magnet go sideways? So that's the fundamental thing we've discovered. 3-phase power. Typically you have 3 coils, U, V, and W. Now if we have our friend, the first magnet here sitting on the U coil just like before, it turns out between the V and the W coils, we put another magnet precisely placed, and it gets pulled very strongly clockwise, not anti-clockwise, clockwise. That's why we call this VW torque. It won't go the other way. Now if you want it to go the other way, we can either reverse the current, we can keep an NS magnet, or we keep the 3-phase power. Here's our friend the U magnet. We simply make it an SN magnet, and now to go anti-clockwise. And that's the fundamental principle behind the new science. We can have half the motors on Earth can be replaced by this principle. And what are called synchronous motors, which are magnet motors, they can't even start them now. And this is exactly how you can self-start them without going to a lot of fuss. Discovered here, February 2020. Thank you very much.